Okay. Oh my god, this mic is so fucking sensitive. Jesus Christ. I feel like I'm gonna breathe the wrong way and you guys are gonna hear it. But that's okay. That's okay. Hi Spartan, hi Gorslax, hi Mecca. Today it's gonna be a little bit different. We're doing ASMR and we're just gonna be reading a book. And I know that's. Oh, if you hear traffic, I can't turn that off. I'm sorry. I live in the city. Just consider it background noise, like white noise or something. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well, and it's good to see you. And yeah, I have a book I thought we could do. Hi, Joji. Hello. How are you, cutie? Anyone who doesn't know, Joji is not only another cow, she is a ASMR artist, and she does wonderful ASMR videos in her little milk aisle, and I definitely recommend checking her out. Hi, Top Shot. Hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so I think it's like a very, very, very long Winnie the Pooh story. I really like Winnie the Pooh. It's one of my favorites, so I thought it would be a good first thing to try out. So the first page says, to her, hand in hand we come, Christopher Robin and I, to lay this book in your lap. Say you're surprised. Say you like it. Say it's just what you wanted. Because it's yours. Because we love you. Okay. If you happen to have read another book about Christopher Robin, you may remember that he once had a swan, or the swan had Christopher Robin, I don't know which, and that he used to call this swan Pooh. That was a long time ago, and when we said goodbye, we took the name with us, as we didn't think the swan would want it anymore. Well, when Edward Bear said that he would like an exciting name all to himself, Christopher Robin said at once, without stopping to think, that he was Winnie the Pooh, and so he was. So, as I have explained the Pooh part, I will now explain the rest. You can't be in London for long without going to the zoo. There are some people who began the zoo at the beginning called Wayne. Why the fuck was he called Wayne? Anyway, and walked as quickly as they can past every cage until they get to the one called, I don't know, but the nicest people go straight to the animal that they love the most, and they stay there. So when Christopher Robin goes to the zoo, he goes where the polar bears are, and he whispers something to the third keeper from the left, and the doors are unlocked. And we wander through dark passages and up steep stairs until at last we come to the special cage, and the cage is opened, and out trots something brown and furry, and with a happy cry of "Oh, bear!" Christopher Robin rushes into its arms. Hi, Nick, welcome. Christopher Robin rushed into its arms. Now this bear's name is Winnie, which shows what a good name for bears it is. But the funny thing is that we can't remember whether Winnie is called after Pooh or Pooh is called after Winnie. We did know once, but we had forgotten. I had written as far as this when Piglet looked up at me and said in his squeaky voice, "What about me?" "My dear Piglet," I said, "this whole book is about you, so it is about Pooh." He squeaked. "You see what it is? He is jealous because he thinks Pooh is having a grand introduction all to himself. Pooh is the favorite, of course. There's no denying it. But Piglet comes in for a good many things, which Pooh misses. Because you can't take Pooh to school without everyone knowing it, but Piglet is so small that he slips into a pocket where it is very comfortable to feel him whenever you are not quite sure whether twice 7 is 12 or 22. Sometimes he slips out and has a good look into the ink pot, and in this way he has gotten more education than Pooh. But Pooh doesn't mind. Some have brains and some haven't, he says, and there it is. And now all of the others are saying, "What about us?" So perhaps the best thing to do is to stop writing this introduction and get on to the book. Root beer, I'm not sure. Winnie the Pooh. There's a really cute drawing of Christopher Robin pulling Winnie down the stairs, like holding his hand and taking him downstairs with him. But chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the story begins. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you were going to say, "But I thought he was a boy." "So did I," said Christopher Robin. "Then you can't call him Winnie." "I don't, but you said. He's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what the means?" "Ah, yes, now I do," I say quickly. Oh, ads. Damn it, I snoozed it, I hope. Sorry. I hope you do too, because it's all the explanation you're going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening, "What about a story?" says Christopher Robin. "What about a story?" I say. "Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one?" I suppose I could. "What kind of stories does he like?" "About himself, because he's that sort of bear." "Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly?" "I'll try," I said, and so I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. "What does under the name mean?" asked Christopher Robin. "It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it." "Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure," said Christopher Robin. "Now I am," said a growly voice. "Then I will go on. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest, and in the middle of this place was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. "First of all," he said to himself, "that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without it meaning something. Oh, it did the noise anyway. Damn it, hold on. It wasn't supposed to. Oh no. Okay, it shouldn't now, but welcome in. Welcome. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh ASMR. Welcome in. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing without it meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. And then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so that I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bee, Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. Then he climbed a little further and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all of these stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that's why he sang such a complicated song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch... Crack! Oh, help, said Pooh as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. If only I hadn't, he said as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. You see, what I meant to do, he explained, turning head over heels and crashing into another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do, of course, it was rather, he admitted, slithering very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided. Are you reading bedtime stories? Hi, Antels, yeah. We're reading Winnie the Pooh. I hope you're having a good night. It all comes, I suppose, he decided as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun round 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes, I suppose, he decides as he says goodbye to the last branch, spun round 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey too much. Oh, help. He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed against the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. I love Winnie the Pooh so much. He's such a good boy. Was that about me? Said Christopher Robin in an odd voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie the Pooh. I wonder if you have got such a thing as a balloon about you. Hi, Swifty. Okay, I don't know why the alert is still happening. I'm sorry, guys. I'll figure it out for next ASMR stream, I promise. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I was just said it to myself thinking balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for, you say? Winnie the Pooh looks round to see that nobody was listening. He put his paw to his mouth and whispered, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with balloons." "I do," said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had a green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue balloon and had left it behind. Being really too young to go to a party at all. Hi, Mirror. Hi, cutie. I hope you're doing good. And so you had brought the green and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like? You ask Pooh. He puts his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think that you were only a part of the tree and not notice you. And if you were to have the blue balloon, they might think you were only part of the sky and not notice you. And so the question is, which is more likely?" "Wouldn't they notice you under the balloon?" Christopher Robin asks. "Well, they might, or they might not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You can never tell with bees." He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." "Well, then you had better go with the blue balloon," said Christopher Robin, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the balloon, and he took his gun with him just in case, as he always did. I didn't know he had a gun. Who gave Christopher Robin a gun? Okay, anyway. He always did, apparently. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of and rolled around and rolled until he was black all over. And then when the balloon was blown up as big and as big as it could be, you and Pooh were both holding onto the string. You let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. "Hooray!" you shout. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh, looking down to you. "What do I look like?" "Well, you look like a bear holding onto a balloon," you said. "Not," said Pooh, "not like a small black cloud in a blue sky." "Not very much." "Ah, well, perhaps from up here it looks different, and as I say, you can never tell with bees." There was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello. I think the bees suspect something." "Well, what sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious. Perhaps they think that you're after their honey." "It may be that. You can never tell with bees." There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. "Christopher Robin." "Yes." "Have you an umbrella in your house?" "I think so." "I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it. I'm so sorry for the traffic noises. I live in the middle of the city. I can't help them. I apologize." I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look at me every now and then and say, tut, tut, it looks like rain. I think if you did that, it would help the deception of which we are practicing on these bees. Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear. But you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him, and you went home and grabbed your umbrella. Oh, there you are, called down Winnie the Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are now definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up? You say. Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which bee is the queen from down there? No. A pity. Well now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, tut, tut, it looks like rain, I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, as such a cloud might sing. Go. So, while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nest and flew all the way round the cloud as it began the second verse of this song. And one bee sat down on the nose of the crop for a moment and then got up again. Christopher, ow! Robin, called the clown. Yes, I've just been thinking, and I've come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sort of bees. Are they? Quite the wrong sort, so I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey, shouldn't you? Would they? Yes, so I think I shall come down. Winnie the Pooh hadn't thought about this, but if he let go of the string, he would fall, pump, and he didn't like the sound of that. So he thought for a long time and then said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun? Of course I have it, you say, but if I do that, it will spoil the balloon. But if you don't, says Pooh, I shall have to let it go, and then that would spoil me. Okay, guys, I can't snooze the ad any longer, so we'll take a small break here while the ad plays, and I'll respond to chat a little bit. But I'm very sorry. I couldn't turn the ads off completely, so we'll keep reading when the ad break ends. I tried. I snoozed them as long as I could. But yeah, if you guys hear a siren, I do live in the city, so I do apologize for that. Thank you for the headbands, by the way. Maybe. Okay, do you guys have an ad, yes or no? Because it told me it's gonna play an ad, but it's not playing one on my screen. Okay, well, if it's not gonna play one, I'm just gonna keep reading. Yes, subs are very helpful when it comes to yeah. Okay, oh, it just started, it says. Ends at 55, 54, 50, when you put it like that, you see how it is, and you aim very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow, said Pooh. Oh, did I miss? You asked. Well, you didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said, and fired again. And this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated down to the ground. But his arms were so stiff from holding on the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed straight even in the air for more than a week. And whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off. And I think, but I am not sure, that is why he was always called Pooh. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others about Pooh and me, and Piglet, and Rabbit, and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember, and then when I try to remember, I forget. The day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump. They didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the next story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said, only Pooh doesn't remember very well, so that's why he likes having it told to him again. And not just having to remember. That's just how I feel. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picking his bear up by the leg and walking off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, "Coming to see me have my bath?" "I might," he said. "I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I?" "Not a bit." He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie the Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. I'm glad you're having fun, Corslax. Okay, let me have a sip of water and then we'll start chapter 2. Oh no, give your doggy lots and lots of head pats. And I'm glad you like it, Seven. Okay. Chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie the Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises. I have no idea what that means. I don't know. In front of the glass, tra-la-la, tra-la-la, as he stretched up as high as he could go. And then, oh help, as he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast, he said it over and over to himself until he had learned it by heart. And now he was humming it right through properly. It went like this. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la. No, I'm not reading it. It's just, I'll hum it though. Okay, there we go. All done. Sorry, I don't like singing when I'm whispering. It feels strange. Well, he was humming this hum to himself and walking along gaily, wondering what everyone else was doing, and what it felt like being someone else. And when suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. "Aha," said Pooh. "If I know anything about anything, this hole means rabbit," he said, "and rabbit means company, and company means food." And listening to me humming and stuff like that. So he bent down, put his head into the hole, and called out, "Is anybody home?" There was a sudden scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then silence. "What I said was, 'Is anybody home?'" called out Pooh very loudly. "No," said a voice, and then added, "You need not shout so loud. I heard you quite well the first time." "Bother," said Pooh. "Isn't there anybody here at all?" "Nobody." Winnie the Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little, and he thought to himself, "So there must be somebody there, because someone must have said nobody." So he put his head back in the hole and said, "Hello, Rabbit, is that you?" "No," said Rabbit, in a different sort of voice this time. Hold on, wait, I can do it. "No," said Rabbit, in a different sort of voice this time. "But isn't that Rabbit's voice?" "I don't think so," said Rabbit. "It isn't meant to be." "Oh," said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think, and then he put it back and said, "Well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is?" "He has gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a great friend of his." "But this is me," said Bear, very much surprised. "What sort of me?" "Pooh Bear." "Are you sure?" said Rabbit, still more surprised. Quite sure," said Pooh. "Oh, well, come on in then." So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got in. "You were right," said Rabbit, looking him all over. "It is you. Glad to see you. Who did you think it was?" "Well, I wasn't sure. You know how it is in the forest. One can't just have anybody coming into one's house. One has to be careful. What about a mouthful of something?" Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. And when Rabbit said, "Honey or condensed milk with your bread," he got so excited that he said, "Both." But then, so as to not seem greedy, he said, "But don't bother about the bread, please." And for a long time after that, he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit's loving paw, and said he must be going on. "Must you?" said Rabbit politely. "Well," said Pooh, "I could stay a little longer if you." He tried very, very hard to look in the direction of the larder. I don't know what a larder is. "As a matter of fact," said Rabbit, "I was going out myself." "Oh, well then, I'll be going," said Pooh. "Goodbye." "Well, goodbye, if you're sure you won't have any more," said Rabbit. "Oh, is there any more?" Pooh asked quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dish and said, "No, there isn't." "I thought not," said Pooh, nodding to himself. "Well, goodbye. I must be going on." So he started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws and pushed with his back paws, and in a little while his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then... "Oh, help," said Pooh. "I'd better go back." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "I should have to go on." "I can't do either," said Pooh. "Oh, help, and oh, bother." Corslacks, I will never watch that godforsaken movie in my entire life. Okay. Now, by this time, Rabbit wanted to go for a walk, and finding his front door full, he went out the back door. He came around to Pooh and looked at him. "Hello, are you stuck?" he asked. "No," said Pooh carelessly, "just resting and thinking and humming to myself." "Here, give us a paw." Pooh Bear stretched out a paw, and Rabbit pulled and pulled and pulled. "Ow!" cried Pooh, "you're hurting me." "The fact is," said Rabbit, "you're stuck." "It all comes," Pooh said crossly, "of not having front doors big enough." "It all comes," Rabbit said sternly, "of eating too much. I thought at the time, if only I didn't want to say anything," said Rabbit, "and I knew it wasn't me. Well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin." Christopher Robin lived on the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit and saw the front half of Pooh, he said, "Silly old bear," in such a loving voice that everyone felt quite hopeful again. "I was just beginning to think," said Bear, sniffing slightly, "that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again. And I should hate that." "I was just beginning to think the same," said Rabbit. "Use his front door again," said Christopher Robin. "Of course he will use his front door again." "Good," said Rabbit. "If we can't pull you out, Pooh, we might as well push you back." Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that once Pooh was pushed back, he was back, and of course no one was more glad to see Pooh than he was. But it was a very small hole underground. "You mean I'll never get out?" said Pooh. "I mean," said Rabbit, "that having got so far out of the hole, it seems it would be a pity to waste it." Christopher Robin nodded. "Then there is only one thing to be done. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again." "How long does getting thin take?" asked Pooh anxiously. Sorry if you saw my model freaking out. I just had a coughing fit, but I'm okay now. But I'm sorry, I know that might have looked funny. And you guys are so sweet, Senji. I'm proud of you. And creepy, thank you. "How long does getting thin take?" asked Pooh anxiously. "About a week, I should think. But I can't stay here for a week." You can stay here, all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out that's proving to be difficult. We'll read to you, said a rabbit cheerfully, and I hope it won't snow, he adds. And I say, old fella, you're doing a quite good deal of taking up room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because I mean, they would be very convenient to hang towels on. Oh, weak, said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin, because of getting thin quicker, but we will read to you. Bear began to sigh, and then found he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck, and a tear rolled down his eye as he said, Jane, would you read a sustaining book? Such would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness. Okay. So, for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh, and Rabbit hung his washing on the south end, and in between, the bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer. And now at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, now. So he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin's. And all Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit, and they all pulled together. And for a long time, Pooh only said, ow, and oh, and then all of a sudden he said, just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. Okay, it says another ad is starting in 10 seconds, so we'll continue after that, okay? And Senji, I hope I can help you sleep. I'm gonna drink some water during the ad, because I feel like that's optimal. But maybe we'll just do some tapping while we wait for it to end, unless it doesn't start. Oh, you didn't get any ads? Okay. If you guys aren't seeing ads, it's telling me one is playing, but I don't actually see it either. So we'll just continue, and if you get an ad, let me know and I'll pause. Okay, and Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all of Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards. On top of that came Winnie the Pooh, free. So, with a nod of thanks to his friends. Oh, you're so close, Senji. I see an ad now. Yeah, okay. We'll tap and count, and then we'll start again. 40, 39, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 30, 29, 28, 26, 24, 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0. Okay, I should have everybody back now. Sorry for the ad break. I already snoozed them as much as I could, so I can't stop them anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, and Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all of Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on the top of them came Winnie the Pooh, free. So, with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said, "Silly old bear." Okay, chapter 3. In which Pooh and Piglet go hunting and almost catch a woozle. The piglet lived in a very grand house in the middle of a peach tree, and the peach tree was in the middle of the forest, and the piglet lived in the middle of the house. Next to his house was a piece of broken board which had "Trespassers W" on it. When Christopher Robin asked the piglet what that meant, he said that it was his grandfather's name, and that it had been in the family for a very long time. Christopher Robin said you just couldn't be called Trespassers W. And Piglet said, oh yes, you could, because his grandfather was, and it was short for Trespassers Will, which was short for Trespassers William, and his grandfather had 2 names in case he lost one. Trespassers after an uncle, and William after Trespassers. I've got 2 names, said Christopher Robin carelessly. I have some Winnie the Pooh knowledge for anyone who didn't catch on there. Trespassers W is short for Trespassers Will Be Shot. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to story time. I just couldn't keep that to myself. Okay, we continue. And thank you, Creepy. But welcome to the cow community. Well, there you are. That proves it, said Piglet. One fine winter's day, when Piglet was brushing away the snow in front of his house, he happened to look up, and there was Winnie the Pooh. Pooh was walking round and round in a circle, thinking of something else, and when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. Hello, said Piglet. What are you doing? Hunting, said Pooh. Hunting what? Tracking something, said Winnie the Pooh, very mysteriously. Hi, Plain Guy. Tracking what, though? Said Piglet, coming closer. That's just what I ask myself. I ask myself, what? Well, what do you think? Will you have an answer? I shall have to wait until I catch up with it, he said. Now look there. He pointed to the ground in front of him. What do you see? Well, tracks, said Piglet. Paw marks. He gave a little squeak of excitement. Oh, Pooh, do you think it's a woozle? It may be, said Pooh. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You can never tell with paw marks. With these few words, he went on tracking, and Piglet, after watching him for a minute or 2, ran after him. Winnie the Pooh had come to a sudden stop and was bending over the tracks in a puzzled sort of way. What's the matter? Asked Piglet. It's a very funny thing, said Bear, but there seems to be 2 animals now. This, whatever it is, has been joined by another, whatever it is. And the 2 of them are now proceeding in company. Would you mind coming with me, Piglet, in case they turn out to be hostile animals? Piglet scratched his ear in the nice sort of way and said that he had nothing to do until Friday and would be delighted to come in case it really was a woozle. You mean in case it's really 2 woozles, said Winnie the Pooh, and Piglet said that anyhow he had nothing to do until Friday, so off they went together. There was a small spinney of larch trees just here, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were, had been going around this spinnery. Oh, they're going in a circle. So around the spinney went Pooh and Piglet after them. Piglet passing the time by telling Pooh what his grandfather, Trespassers W, had done to remove stiffness after tracking, and how his grandfather, Trespassers W, had suffered in his later years from shortness of breath and other matters of interest, and Pooh wondering what a grandfather was like, and if perhaps this was two grandfathers that they were tracking, and if so, would he be allowed to take one home and keep it? And what would Christopher Robin say? And still, the tracks went on in front of them. Suddenly, Winnie the Pooh stopped and pointed excitedly in front of him. "What?" said Piglet with a jump, and then, to show that he hadn't been frightened, he jumped up and down once or twice in an exercising sort of way. "The tracks," said Pooh. "A third animal has joined the other two." "Pooh," cried Piglet, "do you think it's another woozle?" said Pooh. "No," said Pooh, "because it makes different marks. It's either two woozles and one as it might be Whizzle, or two as it might be Whistles, and one, if so it is, Woozle." Let us continue to follow them. So they went on, feeling just a little anxious now, in case the three animals in front of them were hostile. And Piglet wished very much that his grandfather TW were there instead of elsewhere, and Pooh thought how nice it would be if they accidentally met Christopher Robin, but only because he liked Christopher Robin so much. And then all of a sudden, Winnie the Pooh stopped again and licked the tip of his nose in a cooling manner, for he was feeling more hot and anxious than ever in his entire life before. There were 4 animals in front of them. "Do you see, Piglet? Look at their tracks. 3, as in it were woozles, and 1 as it was whistle, and another woozle has joined them." And so it seemed to be. There were the tracks crossing over each other here, getting muddled up with each other there. But quite plainly, even now and then, the tracks showed 4 different paws. "I think," said Piglet, when he had licked the tip of his nose too, and found that it brought very little comfort, "I think that I have just remembered something. I have just remembered something that I forgot to do yesterday and shan't be able to do tomorrow, so I suppose I really ought to get back and do it now." "We'll do it this afternoon, and I'll come with you," said Piglet. "Well, it isn't that sort of thing that you can do in the afternoon," said Piglet quickly. "It's a very, very particular morning thing that has to be done in the morning, and if possible, between the hours of, what would you say the time was?" "Above 12, said Winnie the Pooh, looking at the sun. "Between, as I was saying, the hours of 12 and 12:05. So really, dear old Pooh, if you'll excuse me—" "What's that?" Pooh looked up at the sky, and then he heard the whistle again. He looked up into the branches of a big oak tree, and he saw his friend. "It's Christopher Robin," he said. "And then you'll be all right," said Piglet. "You be safe with him. Goodbye." And he trotted off home as quickly as he could, very glad to be out of danger yet again. Christopher Robin came slowly down his tree. "Silly old bear," he said, "what were you doing? First you went round the spinnery twice by yourself, and then Piglet ran after you, and you went round again together, and then you were just going around a fourth time." "Wait a moment," said Winnie the Pooh, holding up his paw. He sat down and thought, in the most thoughtful way he could, that he fitted his paw into one of the tracks, and then he scratched his nose twice and stood up. "Yes," said Winnie the Pooh. "I see now," says Winnie the Pooh. "I have been foolish and deluded," he said, "and I am a bear of no brain at all." "You are the best bear in all of the world," said Christopher Robin soothingly. "Am I?" said Pooh hopefully, and then he brightened up suddenly. "Anyway," he said, "it's nearly lunchtime." So he went home. Among Us, Winnie the Pooh story time is very sus. Extremely. Okay, we just got to chapter 4. Let me drink some water and then we will keep going. I can't wait. Actually, here. No, I'll watch it after. I'll behave myself. Okay. Oh, Senji, that's so sweet. You guys are so sweet to me tonight. Okay. So, chapter 4, in which Eeyore loses a tail and Pooh finds one. The old grey donkey, Eeyore, stood by himself in a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart and his head on one side. He thought about some things. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, "Why?" And sometimes he thought, "Wherefore?" And sometimes he thought, "Inasmuch as which?" And sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking about. So when Winnie the Pooh came stumping along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to do something for a little bit, in order to say, "How do you do?" in a gloomy manner to him. "And how are you?" said Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. "Not very how," he said. "I don't seem to have felt at all how for a very long time," he said. Dear, said Pooh, "I am sorry about that. Let's have a look at you." So Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie the Pooh walked around him once. "Why, what's happened to your tail?" he said in surprise. "What has happened to it?" said Eeyore. "It isn't there." "Are you sure?" "Well, either the tail is there or it isn't there. You can't really make a mistake about it, and yours isn't there." "Then where is it?" "I don't know." "Then what is it?" "Nothing." "Let's have a look," said Eeyore, and he turned round slowly to the place to where his tail is supposed to be. His tail was there a little while ago, and then, finding that he couldn't catch up to it, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was first. And then he put his head down and looked between his front legs, and at last he said, with a very long, sad sigh, "I believe you're right." "Of course I'm right," said Pooh. "That accounts for a good deal," said Eeyore gloomily. "It explains everything. No wonder." "You must have left it somewhere," said Winnie the Pooh. "Someone must have taken it, said Eeyore. How like them, he added after a long silence. Pooh felt that he ought to say something helpful about it, but he didn't quite know what, so he decided to do something helpful instead. Eeyore, he says, I, Winnie the Pooh, will find your tail for you. Thank you, Pooh, answered Eeyore. You're a real friend, he said, not like some. So Winnie the Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he stared out. Little soft clouds played happily in a blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun if they had to come put it out, as if they had to come put it out. And the sliding away suddenly so that the next might have its turn. Through them and between them the sun shone bravely, and I don't know this word. Copse. A copse. And a copse which has worn its furs all the year seemed old and dowdy by now, beside the new green lace which the breeches had put on so prettily. I have no idea what that word means. Through copse and spinery marched Bear, down open slots of gorse and heather, over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone, and into the heather again, and so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood, for it was in the 100-acre wood that Owl lived. And if anyone knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl who knows something about something. Okay, it says an ad is starting soon. So while we wait for it to start, why don't I describe this pretty picture for you? So basically, it's Winnie the Pooh standing on top of a really big tree, and he's going towards the door from the branch, and the door has a little sign on it and a little knocking pad and there's little stairs right next to it, and I think it's a very cute picture. Okay, and the ad started now. We'll count again and do some tapping. Does everyone have their branded Puddle Cow coffee mugs full of warm milk and blankies? I hope you guys are all so cozy right now. Oh, I have an ad on my screen, so I'm just gonna let it play. But I hope you guys are all so cozy. Hi, Creon. Hi. Welcome in. We're reading Winnie the Pooh. There's an ad right now, so we're waiting for it to end. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Creon, I appreciate you coming, but I know you're not a big ASMR person, so if this hurts your ears, you don't have to stay. Oh no. Oh no. Well, get good and cozy. Okay, so where were we? And if anyone knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl who knows something about something. Or, my name's not Winnie the Pooh, he said, which it is. He added, so, there you are. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old world residence of great charm, which was grander than anyone else, or seemed so to Bear, because it had been both a knocker and a bell pull. Underneath the knocker there was a notice which said, please ring if an answer is required, spelled very poorly, might I add. Underneath the bell pull there was a notice which said, please choke. I don't know, please choke. If an answer is not required, I think it says to choke. Nocturnal, we're just reading. Welcome back. These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. For Owl, wise though he was in many ways, able to read and write and spell his own name, W-O-L, yet somehow went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. Oh, sorry, I hit the mic with my book, I'm sorry. Winnie the Pooh read the two notices very carefully, first from left to right, and afterwards, in case he had missed some of it, right to left. No, my book with a K. My boobs are not big enough to hit this mic, but the book is. Okay, so where was I? Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called out in a very loud voice, Owl, I require an answer. It's Bear speaking. And the door opened, and Owl looked out. Hello, Pooh, he said. How are things? Terrible and sad, said Pooh, because Eeyore, who was a friend of mine, has lost his tail, and he's moping about it, so could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him? Well, said Owl, the customary procedure in such case is as follows. What does crust-a-money proceed cake mean? Said Pooh, for I am a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me. It means the thing to do. As long as it means that, I don't mind, said Pooh humbly. The thing to do is as follows. First, issue a reward. Wait a moment, said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do with this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me. I didn't sneeze. Yes, you did, Owl. Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it. Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed. What I said was, first, issue a reward. You're doing it again, said Pooh sadly. A reward, said Owl very loudly. We write a notice to say that we will give a large something to anyone who finds Eeyore's tail. I see, said Pooh, nodding his head. Talking about a large somethings, he went on dreamily. I generally have a small somethings about now, about this time in the morning, as he looks wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. Just a mouthful of condensed milk or whatnot, with perhaps a lick of honey. Well then, said Owl, we write out this notice and we put it all over the forest. A lick of honey, murmured Bear to himself, or not, as the case may be. And he gave a deep sigh and tried very hard to listen to what Owl was saying. But Owl went on, using longer and longer words, until at last he came back to where he started. And he explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. Condensed milk is a treat. It's a reward. It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Did you see them, Pooh? For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no in turn, with his eyes shut, to all that Owl was saying. Having said yes last time, he said no, not at all, without really knowing what Owl was saying. Of course not, chorus lagged. Absolutely not. Hee hee hee. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. Back to the story. I'm sorry. Didn't you see them? Said Owl, a little surprised. Come, look at them now. So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and noticed below it, and he looked at the bell rope and noticed below it, and the more he looked at the bell rope, the more he felt like he had seen this before, somewhere else, some time before. Handsome bell rope, isn't it? Said Owl. Pooh nodded. It reminds me of something, he said, but I can't think what. Where did you get it? I just came across it in the forest. It was hanging over a bush, and I thought at first someone lived there, so I rang it, but nothing happened. And then I rang it again very loudly, and it came off in my hand, and no one seemed to want it, so I took it home, and Owl, said Pooh, you've made a mistake. Someone did want it. Who? Eeyore, my dear friend Eeyore. He was fond of it. Are there pictures in this book? Absolutely. They're precious. I meant to set up a hand cam for this stream, and I was lazy, and I forgot. Anyway, because there are pictures. Attached to it, said Pooh sadly. So with these words he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore, and when Christopher Robin had nailed it onto the right place again, Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie the Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. And wiping his mouth half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly, Who found the tail? I, said Pooh, at 1:45. I found the tail. Only it was 11:15, really. Yes, next time. Alright, chapter 5. I'm gonna do what I've been doing and have some water, and then we'll keep going. Okay, chapter 5, in which Piglet meets a heffalump. One day, when Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were all talking together, Christopher Robin finished the mouthful he was eating and said carelessly, I saw a heffalump today, Piglet. What was it doing? Asked Piglet. Just lumping along. Let me see, how many chapters are in this book? We are on chapter 5. 1, 2. There's 10. So this is the halfway point. I lost my place. Okay, I found it. What was it doing? Asked Piglet. Just lumping along, said Christopher Robin. I don't think it saw me. I saw one once, said Piglet. At least, I think I did. Or perhaps I wasn't. So did I, said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. You don't often see them, said Christopher Robin carelessly. Not now, said Piglet. Not at this time of year, said Pooh. And they all talked about something else until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together. At first, they stumped along the path which edged to the 100-acre wood. They didn't say much, but... Oh, my OBS froze. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? My OBS isn't moving. Okay, if you can hear me, I'll keep going. My OBS isn't moving. Okay, I saw one once, said Piglet. At least I think I did. Or perhaps it wasn't. So did I, said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. You don't often see them, said Christopher Robin carelessly. Not now, said Piglet. Not at this time of year, said Pooh. Then they all talked about something else until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together. At first, as they stumped along the path which edged the 100-acre wood, they didn't say much to each other. But when they came across the stream and had helped each other across the stepping stones and were able to walk side by side again over the heather, they began to talk in a friendly way about this and that, and Piglet said, If you see what I mean, Pooh. And Pooh said, It's just what I think myself, Piglet. And Piglet said, But on the other hand, Pooh, we must remember. And Pooh said, Quite true, Piglet, although I had forgotten it for the moment. Sorry, I punched the mic again. I'm learning. I'm not used to it being here. But on the other hand, Pooh, we must remember, said Piglet. And Pooh said, Quite true, Piglet, although I had forgotten it for the moment. And then, just as they came to the 6 pine trees, Pooh looked round to see that no one else was listening, and said in a very seldom voice, Piglet, I have decided something. What have you decided, Pooh? I have decided to catch a heffalump. Pooh nodded his head several times as he said this, and waited for Piglet to say, How? Or, Pooh, you couldn't, or something helpful of the sort. But Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought about it first. I shall do it, said Pooh, after waiting a little longer, by means of a trap, and it must be a cunning trap. So will you help me with it, Piglet? Pooh, said Piglet, feeling quite happy now. I will. And then he said, How shall we do it? And Pooh said, That's just it. How? And then they sat down together to think it out. Pooh's first idea was that they should dig a very deep pit, and then the heffalump would have to come along and fall in the pit. And why? Said Piglet. Why what? Said Pooh. Why would he fall in? Pooh rubbed his nose with his paw and said that the heffalump might be walking along humming a little song and looking up at the sky, wondering if it would rain, and so he wouldn't see a very deep pit until he was halfway down and it would be too late. Piglet said that this was a very good trap, but suppose it was raining already? Pooh rubbed his nose again, and then said that he hadn't thought about that, and then he brightened up and said, If it was raining already, then the heffalump would be looking up at the sky, wondering when it would clear up, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late. Piglet said that now that this point had been explained, he thought it was a very cunning trap. Pooh was very proud when he heard this, and had felt that the heffalump was as good as caught already. But there was just one thing which had to be thought about, and that was this: where should they dig the very deep pit? Piglet said that the best place would to be somewhere where a heffalump was, but before he fell into it, only about a foot farther on. But then he would see us digging it, said Pooh, not if he was looking up at the sky. He would suspect, said Pooh, if he happened to look down. He thought for a long time and then added sadly, "It isn't as easy as I thought. I suppose that's why heffalumps hardly ever get caught." "That must be it," said Piglet. They sighed and got up, and when they had taken a few coarse prickles out of themselves, they sat down again. And all of the time Pooh was saying to himself, "If only I could think of something," for he felt sure that a very clever brain could catch a heffalump if only he knew the right way to go about it. "Suppose," he said to Piglet, "you wanted to catch me. How would you do it?" "Well," said Piglet, "I should do it just like this. I would make a trap, and I should put a jar of honey in the trap, and you would smell it, and you would go in after it, and I would go in after it," said Pooh excitedly, "only very carefully so as to not hurt myself, and I would get the jar of honey, and I should lick round the edges first of all, pretending that there wasn't any more, and then I should walk away, thinking about it a little, and then I should come back and start licking the middle of the jar, and then, well, never mind about that. There you would be, and there I should be to catch you. Now the first thing to think of, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you? We'll get a lot of— Wake up, Pooh." Pooh, who had gone into a very happy dream, woke up with a start and said that honey was a much more trappy thing than acorns. Piglet didn't think so, and they were just going to argue about it. When Piglet remembered that if they put acorns in the trap, he would have to find the acorns, but if they put honey in the trap, then Pooh would have to give up some of his own honey. And so he said, "All right, honey then," just as Pooh remembered too, and was going to say, "All right, acorns." "Honey," said Piglet to himself. "Oh, are you guys in an ad?" "Oh, you wanted the snake. I got scared because it says there's one starting soon." "Okay." "Honey," said Piglet to himself in a thoughtful way, as if it were now settled, "I'll dig that pit. Okay. Now there is an ad. I see it. I see it on my screen. So if you don't see the ad, I think, let me see how many pages we have left in this chapter. Oh, well, there's an ad playing for me, and it says there is. Oh, this is a very long chapter. We have about 10 pages left, so we'll probably finish this chapter and then save the next for another night. Because I need to have a cough drop soon. It's hard to whisper for this long. Who would have thought? Oh, good night. Good night. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Chips is bowling right now, so he'll have to hear it after. Funnily enough, some puddle cow lore. I have insomnia, and sometimes if I can't fall asleep, Chips reads Winnie the Pooh to me. Anyway. Moo woo. Alright. Honey, said Piglet to himself in a thoughtful way, as if it were now settled. I'll dig the pit while you go get the honey. Very well, said Pooh, and he stumped off. As soon as he got home, he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and took down a very large jar of honey from the top shelf. It had honey written on it, but just to make sure, he took off the paper covering it and looked at it, and it looked just like honey. But you never can tell, said Pooh. I remember my uncle saying once that he had seen cheese just this color. So he put his tongue in it, and he took a very large lick. I should say, right now, to the bottom of the jar, unless, of course, he said, someone put cheese at the bottom of the jar as a joke. Perhaps I'd better go a little further, just in case heffalumps don't like cheese. Same as me. Ah, he gave a deep sigh. I was right. It is honey, all the way to the bottom. Having made certain of this, he took the jar back to Piglet, and Piglet looked up from the bottom of the very deep pit. Got it? And Pooh said, yes, but it isn't quite full. And he threw it in down to Piglet, and Piglet said, no, it isn't, but is that all you've got left? And Pooh said, yes, because it was. Thank you for the head pats, and welcome to the cow community. So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit and climbed out, and they went home together. Well, good night, Pooh, said Piglet when they got to Pooh's house, and we meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow by the pine trees and see how many heffalumps we've got in our trap. 6 o'clock, Piglet. And have you got any string? No. Why would you want string? To lead them home with. Oh, I think heffalumps come if you whisper. Not whisper, whistle. Some do and some don't. You never can tell with heffalumps. Well, good night. Good night. And off Piglet trotted to his house, Trespassers W, while Pooh made his preparations for bed. Some hours later, just as the night was beginning to steal away, Pooh woke up suddenly with a sinking feeling. He had had that sinking feeling before, and he knew what it meant. Yes, a heffalump is coming for me. He's coming for me. I hear him. He was hungry, so he went to the larder and stood up on a chair and reached up to the top shelf and found nothing. That's funny, he thought. I know I had a jar of honey there, a full jar, full of honey, right up to the top, and it had honey written on it. So I should know that it was honey. That's very funny. But as he began to wander up and down, wondering to himself where it was, and murmuring a murmur to himself like this, it's very, very funny, 'cause I know I had some honey, 'cause it had a label on it saying honey. A galoptuous full up pot, too, and no, I don't know where it's got to. No, I don't know where it's gone. Well, that's funny. He had murmured to himself 3 times in a singing sort of way, but suddenly he remembered. He had put it into the cunning trap to catch the heffalump. Bother, said Pooh. It all comes of trying to be kind to heffalumps. And then he got back into bed, but he couldn't sleep. The more he tried to sleep, the more he couldn't. He tried counting sheep, which is sometimes a good way of getting to sleep. And as that was no good, he tried counting heffalumps, and that was even worse, because every heffalump that he counted was making straight for a pot of Pooh's honey and eating it all. He laid there miserable, but when the 587th heffalump was licking its jaws, saying to itself, very good honey this, I don't know where I'd taste better, Pooh could bear it no longer. He jumped out of bed, and he ran out of the house and ran straight to the 6 pine trees. The sun was still in bed, but there was a lightness in the sky over the 100-acre wood, which seemed to be showing that it was waking up and would soon be kicking off its clothes. In the light, the pine trees looked cold and lonely, and the very deep pit seemed deeper than it was. And Pooh's jar of honey at the bottom was something mysterious, a shape and no more. But as he got nearer to it, his nose told him that it was indeed honey, and his tongue came out and began to polish his mouth, ready for it. "Father," said Pooh, as he got his nose inside the jar, "a heffalomp's been eating it." And then he thought a little bit and said, "Oh, no, I've been eating it." And indeed, he had eaten most of it. But there was a little left at the very bottom of the jar, and he pushed his head right in and began to lick. By and by, Piglet woke up. As soon as he woke, he said to himself, "Oh." Then he said bravely, "Yes." And then, still more bravely, he said, "Quite so." But he didn't feel very brave. For this, I'm sorry. For this, word which he was really jittering about in his brain was heffalumps. What was a heffalump like? Is it fierce? Does it come when you whistle? And how does it come? Was it fond of pigs at all? And if it was fond of pigs, did it matter any different what sort of pig? Supposing it was fierce with pigs, would it make any difference if the pig had a grandfather called Trespassers William? He didn't know the answer to any of these questions, and he was going to see his first heffalump in about an hour from now. Of course, Pooh would be with him, and it was much more friendly with two, but suppose heffalumps were very fierce with pigs and bears? Wouldn't it be better to pretend that he had a headache and couldn't go up to the 6 pine trees this morning? But then suppose that it was a fine day and that there was no heffalump in the trap. Here he would be in bed all morning, simply wasting his time for nothing. What should he do? And then he had a very clever idea. He would go up very quietly to the 6 pine trees now, peep cautiously into the trap, and see if there was a heffalump there. And if there was, he would go back to bed, and if there wasn't, then he wouldn't. So off he went. At first he thought that there wouldn't be a heffalump in the trap, and then he thought that there would be. And as he got nearer, he was sure that there would be, because he could hear it heffalumping around. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear," said Piglet to himself, as he wanted to run away, but somehow, having got so near, he felt that he must see what a heffalump was like. So he crept to the side of the trap and looked in. And all this time Winnie the Pooh had been trying to get the honey jar off of his head. The more he shook it, the more tightly it stuck. "Father," he said, inside the jar, "oh help," and mostly, "ow." He tried bumping it against things, but as he couldn't see what he was bumping against, it didn't help him, and he tried to climb out of the trap, but as he couldn't see anything but the jar, he couldn't get very far with that. So he just couldn't find his way, and so at last he lifted up his head, jar and all, and made a loud roaring noise of sadness and despair. And it was at this moment that Piglet looked down. "Help, help," cried Piglet, "a heffalump, a heffalump, a heffalump." And he screamed off as hard as he could, still crying out, "Help, help, a horrible heffalump, huff, huff, a horrible lump. A horrible hellorlump," and didn't stop crying and scampering until he got all the way to Christopher Robin's house. "Whatever is the matter, Piglet?" said Christopher Robin, who was just getting up. "Huff," said Piglet, breathing so hard that he could hardly speak. "A heffalump, a heffalump." "Where?" Up there, said Piglet, waving his paw. What did it look like? Like, it had the biggest head you ever saw, Christopher Robin. A great big enormous thing. Like nothing. A huge big, well, like a, I don't know, like an enormous big nothing, like a jar. Well, said Christopher Robin, putting on his shoes, I shall go and look at it. Come on. Piglet wasn't afraid if he had Christopher Robin with him, and so off they went. I can hear it, can't you? Said Piglet anxiously as they got near. I hear something, said Christopher Robin. It was Pooh, bumping his head against a tree root that he had found. There, said Piglet, isn't it awful? And he held on tight to Christopher Robin's hand. Suddenly, Christopher Robin began to laugh, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed, and when he was still laughing, crash went the heffalomp's head against the tree root, smash went the jar, and out came Pooh's head. Then Piglet saw what a foolish piglet he had been, and he was so ashamed of himself that he had ran straight off home and went to bed with a headache. But Christopher Robin and Pooh went home to breakfast together. Oh, Bear, said Christopher Robin, how I love you. So do I, said Pooh. Okay, guys, the next chapter, chapter 6, is called In Which Eeyore Has a Birthday and Gets 2 Presents. That being said, though, I think we'll have to save that one for next time. I think that might be it for us tonight, but I will put you guys with another ASMR artist because I don't want to wake anybody up who's sleeping. I would never ever want to do that, but this was so much fun for me, and I appreciate everybody who joined, and welcome to all the new friends who came out for this because, you know, it's my first time, so I do appreciate it. We will definitely do more in the future. If you would like, I'm not gonna send you to someone yelling. It won't happen. If you would like to hang out off stream or get notified whenever I go live, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. And if you prefer social media, I'm pretty active on my socials, so I would love to see you there. We will definitely be doing an ASMR stream in the future, so if you would like to be here for that, I would love to see you, and I definitely recommend joining in some way. Thank you, Creon. Yes, we're gonna go raid someone, like I said, another ASMR artist, another VTuber probably. So if you'd like to bring them raid message if you're still awake, I'd appreciate it. And if not, you know what, we'll go. I found somebody. We'll go hang out with her. It seems she's recording stuff. I don't know what that means, but she's doing it. She looks very cute. So we'll go hang out with her. And thank you guys again so much for coming to hang out. And like I said, this was my first time, so if you have any suggestions, you're more than welcome to tell me. I'm very open to criticism. I know I have some sound things to fix, so it does not bother me. But I hope you guys all have an amazing night and super cozy sleepies. And I'll see you next time.